var första gång vi möttes. Våra blickar bara möttes. Kommer du ihåg det igen? Kommer du ihåg det igen? Du vill ha icy little fingers. Då du vet det chalas. All in, ingen broms, schackmatt på din vänster hand. Du är så viktig baby. Ja, du allians. Du är försiktig baby. Men du gav mig en chans. Det är 50-50 baby. Men det är balans. Jag växlar upp med dig baby. Ingen annan. Det var fan ingen dans på någon ros innan jag träffade någon som det. Det var fan ingen dans på någon ros innan jag träffade någon som det. Du är mitt liv baby. Aldrig titta på någon annan. Varför du med annan? Kom var med mig baby. Aldrig lita på någon annan. Finns ingen annan jag vill ha min chakarinna. Mosa och save ingen sinna. Jag kommer alltid ride with you. 100 gubbar klart die for you. Du är så viktig baby. Ja du allians. Du är försiktig baby. Men du gav mig en chans. Det är 50-50 baby. Men det är balans. Jag växlar upp med dig baby. Ingen annan. Det var fan ingen dans på någon ros innan jag träffade någon som det. Du är mitt liv baby. Det var fan ingen dans på någon ros innan jag träffade någon som det. Du är mitt liv baby. Visa mig vart du finns. Du kommer väl till min city? Nej, jag vet att det finns. Kom då, det är bra lives and all nights, yeah. Jag vet att jag min kör det. Skön social smagelare. Jag tvivlar det. Visa mig var du finns, yeah. Det var fan ingen dans på någon ros innan jag träffade någon som det. Du är mitt liv baby. Det var fan ingen dans på någon ros innan jag träffade någon som det. Du är mitt liv baby. Det var fan ingen dans på någon ros innan jag träffade någon som det. Du är mitt liv baby. Det var fan ingen dans på någon ros innan jag träffade någon som det. Du är mitt liv
In 2018, the UNC members of the Tunapuna-Piarco Regional Corporation visited the St. Joseph's Secondary School. The school had holes in the roof and was run down. But we felt confident because we were aware that a school was being built for these children, started by our leader, Kamla Persad Bissessar, and the People's Partnership Government. However, much to our surprise, we were about to get a reality check. In September 2015, the school was 95% complete, and all that needed to be installed were the air conditioning units. However, under this P&M administration, work at the St. Joseph's Secondary School stopped. And this, my friends, is what happened next. The school was abandoned, vandalized. Thousands of dollars worth of acoustic tiles, ceiling tiles, were just lying in the middle of a hall, there for years, waiting for somebody to come and steal it. It was disgusting. I have to tell you, my friends, at this point, I was in shock. So I decided to go and do some research. When I checked, I found out that in November 2015, the P&M Minister of Education and Member of Parliament for Arima at that time, Anthony Garcia, said that a new contractor had been hired, and he assured that all efforts would be made to have the building up and running in the not too distant future. That, my friends, was in 2015. So I don't know what Anthony Garcia thinks the not-too-distant future is. In 2019, before the Parliament, Minister Garcia said that 3 steps had been taken to fix the school. He said they had increased security officers to round the clock. Minister Garcia said that the Ministry of Education had engaged a contractor to secure the site and in particular the materials. The current MP for Barataria San Juan and then Senator Saddam Hosein questioned how could this place still be called a construction site when it was 95% complete in 2015. Somebody needs to take responsibility for this. And just in case you thought that this couldn't get any worse, well, I want you to pay attention that when we visited, even though the place was already being vandalized, the roof was still in place, and that the minister had promised round-the-clock security. Well, my friends, let me show you what it looks like today. This, my friends, is now. This is what it looked like today. This is drone footage. On your right is the ceiling of the hall that we were standing in 2018. And on the left, everything is gone. I'll take note, including the tiles that was in the middle of the hall. I mean, if a picture paints 1,000 words, then this video shows millions of dollars that the PNM allowed to be stolen from a school that was 95% complete. All they needed to do was install an air conditioning system. And now we have a new Minister of Education. What has the minister been doing since she took office? We've been dealing with COVID. She hasn't had anything to do. I don't know if she pitching marble inside of the ministry, but they could have taken the time to fix this school. And it's not this school alone. This is not the only one. I mean, let's see what's going on just a few blocks away in Curep Presbyterian. And listen to me, at least the roof still there. But you realize all the windows gone, all the doors gone, the plumbing also gone, and bush growing everywhere. I mean, I don't know, but by next year, around this time, all that might be gone too. Because you know what? There wasn't even one security guard on the compound. This has been sitting there since 2015 as well. 6 years have passed. An entire generation would have gone to school here. Curep Presbyterian needs their school. What is going on? What is the minister doing? I know what she's not doing. She's not finishing Barataria North Secondary School. Ask MP Saddam Hosein. He has been trying to get them to do something. I mean, the most that's going on there is they're cutting the grass. Why can't we finish the schools? Why do we think it's not important? Is it spite? I mean, we need to ask the hard questions here. We need to be honest. Is the PNM not finishing these schools simply because Kamla Persad Bissessar is the person that started these schools? Is it because these are UNC schools? I want to tell you, these are not UNC schools. These are schools for the children of Trinidad and Tobago.
Do you know that in 2016, 66 liters of diesel cost $100? Today, under the PNM, you get 20 liters of diesel for $100. The diesel you paid $100 for under the UNC now costs $327 under the PNM, which directly affects the cost of food, transport, and services. Guess who I'm voting for next time? Tonight, attorneys at law, Devesh Maharaj, Jagdeo Singh, and Saddam Hosein, live from the Barataria Regional Complex. Welcome to the leader of the opposition, Townhall, hosted by opposition leader, Kamla Bissessar.
I would like to formally welcome each and every one of you for joining with us on this rainy Monday evening on a topic that is affecting all of Trinidad and Tobago. And the office of the leader of the opposition found it fit to reach out to the people of Trinidad and Tobago to discuss this topic of crime and criminality and share our plans and policies when we return to government in 2025. So I want to commend the Leader of the Opposition for taking this initiative, for coming into Barataria San Juan in order to engage the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and in particular the constituents of Barataria San Juan, on this very important topic. And joining us on today's panel will be two very prominent legal luminaries in Trinidad and Tobago. To my right, I have a person we are all familiar with, Mr. Jagdeo Singh. And to the right of the Leader of the Opposition is Mr. Devesh Maharaj. And the rose, Mrs. Kamla Persad, Bissessar of Senior Counsel, has been the first female Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago, the first female Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and soon again, the next Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And this evening program, we have 4 very important topics we wish to get through within the limited time. And Mrs. Persad Bissessar will be the moderator for this evening's program, taking us through the various topics discussing issues of crime, criminal justice, and the civil jurisdiction of the High Court also. So I now hand over the microphone to Mrs. Persad Bissessar.
Thank you very much. Give it up to MP Saddam Hosein. All distinguished persons in the audience are crammed hall tonight. Give yourselves a round of applause. So many of you have turned up to hear our panelists. I'm very pleased to join my 2 brothers-in-law, Attorney Jagdeo Singh, Devesh Maharaj, and of course our own MP Saddam Hosein. So you have an entire panel of only lawyers here. Yes. But there are lawyers in the audience as well, and non-lawyers. We have several of you. So we want to hear from you. We join us here, these very critical discussions. This is another installment in this series of Townhalls that we've been holding. And several we've had have been quite beneficial to help us on honing policies, programs that we would want to see implemented. So we look forward, I know you're looking forward to the panelists, we look forward to hearing from you. So it is a system of justice that governs our nation. If there is no justice in the system, then what do you have? You'll have injustice and brutality and wars. So I hand over now to MP Saddam, who will share the format. And again, I thank you for attending, and we look forward to hearing from you all. And good evening once again. MP Saddam, please.
Thank you very much. The first topic deals with an overview of the challenges currently plaguing the criminal justice system and the urgent need for reform. The second topic deals with the inefficiencies of the civil division of the court. The third topic deals with the rehabilitation and reform in advancing critical changes to our legal justice system. And the fourth topic is the way forward. The panel this evening will take the form of the 4 topics being discussed simultaneously. Presenter 1, for the first topic, we'll invite Mr. Devesh Maharaj, then we'll be followed by Mr. Jagdeo Singh, and then we'll ask the opposition leader for an overview on the both topics when we finish with each topic. So I now invite Mr. Maharaj to address us on the first topic, which deals with the criminal justice system and the need for reform.
Political leader, Mrs. Kamla Persad Bissessar, SC, distinguished guests, brothers and sisters. Mr. Singh will look at more in detail with the question of the criminal justice system. I just want to draw a few things to your attention. Do you know the importance of today? Anyone? As usual, the political leader has her finger on the pulse. Today is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. An important occasion marking this day in Trinidad and Tobago for
elimination of violence against women. Why is it that today is that day? What are the statistics with regard to Trinidad and Tobago with regard to violence against women? I will share some with you. In 2019, The stats are there were 1,078 complaints of domestic violence against women. 2020 it rose to 2,442. 2022, 3,083. 2023, brothers and sisters, the pandemic wasn't COVID, you know. The pandemic is this. 2023, it was 5,362 complaints of abuse against women in
Trinidad and Tobago. Why is this happening? Why is this happening against women in Trinidad and Tobago? What are the systems that we have put in place to safeguard our women? Whilst that is so, I will just share some stats with you of violence against children. In 2023, up to October,
it was 4,444
complaints of violence, sexual abuse, physical abuse against children. The situation is so bad, brothers and sisters, that earlier this year, a High Court judge had to pronounce on a case of Tot Lamkin. You all may have heard about it. Her daughter was killed by a common law husband. He turned the gun on himself and killed himself. After that was done, the mother of Jennifer Isaac, brothers and sisters, took a case to the court to ask the court for relief for her deceased daughter and for the abuse of a grandchild, saying that the provisions of the Constitution have been contravened. The first case of its kind in the country of a woman, of a mother, a grieving mother who has come forward. What was the response of the authorities? The response of the authorities, the Attorney General Office convened a seminar asking people to come together to respond. Police. When the case came up before the judge, the magistrate dismissed the case. The police, who was invested in the case, did not investigate the case. They asked the lady, they said, "Madam, do not come and make reports at the station so you can get maintenance." That was the response. That was the evidence that came out of the court with violence against women. It's only after this case was decided, brothers and sisters, a few months ago, the police, grateful to them, the gender violence unit within the police service, say they have taken cognizance of that case and they are now going to bring policing in line with how it should be if you are investigating domestic violence cases. You had to have a case to do that. You had to have a judge to tell you to do that, brothers and sisters. A life was lost. How many murders have been taking place on the domestic violence front? The authorities, the Attorney General, the Minister of National Security, thankfully they have responded. But is it sufficient? I am sure, under the leadership of our political leader, from 2025 onwards, we are going to take, she is going to take a very proactive position with regard to safeguarding not only our women, brothers and sisters, but our children. 4,444 complaints against children, sexual abuse, physical abuse, beating. I think it was political leader, who stopped corporal punishment. I think it was under the United National Congress 2010 or 2015, because the psychologists are telling you if you beat the children, what are they going to do when they grow up? They're going to beat somebody else. They're going to inflict blows on somebody else. On this editorial this morning on elimination against violence, listen to what they are saying is the possible cure to this problem for violence against women and children. The editor says, notably, building on the existing foundation may be the most effective by accomplishing it in home. If you do not get your home correct, all of these problems are going to occur. The newspaper, psychologists, spiritual leaders, and our political leader has always said, fix your home, treat your children properly, treat your wives properly, treat your women properly. Hopefully, we can get a better society, brothers and sisters. Whilst that stats is with you, I will just tell you, as of yesterday, there were 575 murders in this country, along with violence to women, along with violence to children. We are in an existential crisis in Trinidad and Tobago. I am being beeped. My time is up for the time. I didn't even start to get going. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maharaj, and I'm sure you'll have much more to say. We just started, right? I'll now invite Mr. Singh to give his views on the criminal justice system and reforms that he may propose.
The delivery of criminal justice, and it is a deliverable. It is a socio-political, legal deliverable, is perhaps one of the most important aspects of any modern functioning democratic society. As Mr. Maharaj has so eloquently said, crime and the failures of the criminal justice system presents an existential threat to the well-being and the social fabric of this society. There is only one way you can fix what is plainly not an entirely broken criminal justice system, but one which is severely wounded, bordering on potentially mortally wounded. The consequences of that are too grave to speak in detail about now, but we need only to look at what is happening in Haiti to understand that if we do not fix this system, that is where we're headed. So it first starts with detection. Crimes are committed, as Devesh has said, 575 murders in a country of 1.5 million people. In the United Kingdom, there are 9 murders for every million people. In New York, there are, I think it is 45, or maybe it might be more. In some of the big cities of the United States, the murder rate is shockingly low when you look at the statistics per million people. So if you have people who are freely committing the most heinous and serious crime known to the law and simply walking about without being detected, you cannot fix the society. So this can only be fixed by a comprehensive regime of detection, and it first starts with that. So what do? You equip the police, as has been done in previous administrations under Mrs. Persad Bissessar. The most comprehensive outfitting of the police has always been in the tenure of the UNC, from 1995 to 2000, and then from 2010 to 2015. But it doesn't stop there. It requires comprehensive, focused training of police officers, the creation of specialized units who are trained, equipped, well-funded to go after violent crime. Then, when persons are arrested, what do we do? Do you just simply admit them to bail without any corresponding obligation to society? No. The simplest solution for an overnight drop in crime, and I've said so repeatedly, is you put an electronic bracelet on every person who's charged for an offense and on bail for an offense. The statistics have shown that violent and serious crime are committed by repeat offenders. The fancy sociological term is recidivists, okay? No one wakes up in the morning and commits a series of murders for the first time in his life. Every time he commits a crime and he's not caught or he's released on bail, he is further emboldened to commit more crime. So the easiest and the quickest is to put an electronic bracelet on him, modify the terms of his bail, prevent him from consorting with known criminals. So when the police see 10 electronic bracelets assembled in one small room, you know what's taking place there? It's a confederacy of criminals meeting to decide what they're going to do. So the police gathers intelligence. Okay? So quite apart from that, then you move to the court system. At present, you have not even 15 courts, criminal courts, in their size, sitting to decide over 600 pending murder indictments. You do the math. When do you think we are going to finish that? Do the math. It's an impossible task. Or some would say it's a Sisyphean endeavor, attempting to roll a big boulder up a hill. It will never happen. It's going to roll back down and crush you. So unless we do something like that, we are going to be inundated with a wave of crime that is going to take us beyond any point of return. So you have the bail. That is the easiest thing. Then you have prison reform. So you know what? When you get a prison sentence, let's say you get 6-year sentence, you automatically get 1/3. So when the prisoner leaves there, he gets 1/3 off for good behavior. But guess what? He is free to do whatever he wants with his 1/3 benefit. He has no corresponding obligation to behave himself. So you know what? Don't take away the 1/3 sentence, but amend the law in such a way that every prisoner released from prison has to behave himself. If he commits a crime or breaches the terms of his release, you go right back to finish your 1/3 sentence. So you're not getting a free discount. And there are many other, I think I'm over my time, but there are many other things that we will develop as the discussion goes on.
I just want to commend my two very senior colleagues of sticking to time. Time is money in the legal profession. But I just want to take off 2-3 points that Mr. Singh would have raised. He raised something about the detection rate. The official statistics from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service shows that in the year 2024, we have a detection rate of 8%, which means from May 2024, of 233 murders, only 18 were detected. 18. For the year 2022, which is the highest murder rate we ever had in Trinidad and Tobago, 604 murders, the detection rate was 79. 79, abysmal detection rate. And I just want to share one particular statistic with you. When the government introduced the policy with the decriminalization of the marijuana and the abolition of preliminary inquiries, Mr. Al-Rawi, then the Attorney General, indicated that 30,000 cases will just fall off the magistrate's court. You wouldn't have all of this caseload in the magistrate's court. Now, a colleague today shared with me an email So if you get a traffic ticket and you want to challenge a ticket, you file a notice to contest. The person filed a notice to contest, and the adjourned date, the offense was allegedly committed in October 2024. The adjourned date for the matter to be heard, not the trial, just a status hearing, is the 16th of August 2029. 16th of August 2029 for a traffic offense that was allegedly committed in the year 2024. So I leave you with that brief, revealing fact, and I pass you over now to the opposition leader for her views on the criminal justice system.
Thank you, MP Saddam. Thank you, MP Saddam. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. We talked earlier about justice delayed is justice denied. It reminds me of people waiting for surgeries in the hospital. You remember I talked to you about health reform as well. We had a meeting at Townhall on healthcare. So they kicked the can down the road, as our friend here, Mr. Jagdeo Singh, told us about Sisyphus, the children of Sisyphus, that you keep trying to push this big boulder up a hill, but it will come back down and crush you. So the backlog in the courts, a tremendous backlog. Why is it that this government has not moved to increase the number of courts? Why is it that this government has done nothing? And then what do? Blame everybody. So they blame the judiciary. They say because of the judiciary we have these backlogs, Jagdeo, Dev. But it can't be, because as you've explained, it's a serious matter with the number of cases, the number of courts, the number of judges. They seem to have no care for justice in Trinidad and Tobago. And then, as I say, they blame the DPP. They blame the judiciary. But they only blame lies upon themselves for not coming up. Look, Jagdeo Singh in 2 seconds was able to give us 2 things that could be done almost instantly. I remember we passed the law for the GPS bracelets. And it took them 9 years. I'm not even sure if it's fully implemented yet. Take your mic. Mm-hmm.
In 2011.
In 2011, for the bracelets. And that is such a brilliant plan. They took years. Because why? Maybe they were planning to think, well, whom to give the contract to bring in the GPS bracelets. I said, John Abraham nodded, and Mr. McIntyre, you all were back there in the day. You will know what I'm talking about. Who will they give the contract to import the bracelets? That was more important than getting functioning bracelets. And our friend Devesh here talked about it, women and children. I have never seen such a savage time in our country. You know, I met with a senior police officer last evening, and he was saying, you know, in the past when bandits came, if there were women and children around, they would not move to murder and kill. They will not kill. But nowadays, you're holding the child in your lap, and the gun explodes. We have become a very brutal place. And why? It's because the justice system is broken and needs fixing as soon as possible. We will do that. When you put us back, we will do it. Jagdeo made a point, when the UNC is in government, the crime is at the lowest. Every time the PNM goes back into office, what happens? Crime goes up, and you've heard the numbers. And Jagdeo raised a very important point when he talked about Haiti. What we are seeing here is really the trajectory for Trinidad and Tobago to become the next Haiti. We are Haitianizing Trinidad and Tobago because crime, all-time high, the justice system is broken, the government has no solutions, no plans, except to blame everybody else. So first is blame Kamla. How long you'll blame me for, man? It's 10 years now, you know. They govern in the rearview mirror. So let me not exceed my time as I hand back to Saddam as we carry this program along. Thank you all. Go ahead, Saddam.
Thank you very much. So we want to go right into our second topic, which deals with the civil division of the High Court. And this comprises issues such as probate, deeds, land, will, companies registry, and also matters that are non-criminal. For example, persons who may have gotten in an accident, breach of contracts, those types of matters. So I now invite again Mr. Devesh Maharaj to lead the discussion on this topic.
Thank you again, Saddam. The civil side, which is dealing with non-criminal matters, is not a very sexy topic to talk about. But I want to ask you all something. Many of you all have filed cases in court. Land matters, somebody encroach on your boundary, somebody owes you money. How long does it take for you to get a judgment in this country? Yes. Real years, right? Do you know in the UK, they have now brought down the time from filing your action to hearing, a judge hearing your matter, 1 year. In the Court of Appeal in the UK, filing your appeal to the hearing, 8 months. In Trinidad and Tobago, we are burdened by the length of time for the delivery of justice. As the political leader said, justice delayed is justice denied. So many people have filed actions in court. They have died waiting. Their children have to take over the matter. It's hard. What is the solution to these things? In certain Caribbean countries, for example, they have passed a law called a time limit. What is a time limit? A time limit means from the time a judge hears a matter, they have a specific time in which to give a judgment. But that is the end of the matter, right? So you cannot delay more and more. But more importantly, brothers and sisters, what has been employed throughout the world, throughout the civilized world, is something called ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution. So in other words, by the time you file your action in court, every year the Honorable Chief Justice, when he speaks to us, when he gives his report, he laments. He said, what else is there to do? There's so many cases. Trinidad is a country where everybody wants to sue everybody for something. I don't understand what's going on. If you throw rubbish in your yard, you want to sue. If you look at yourself, somebody too hard, you want to sue. So cases are backing up in the system. So what has been used in other countries is something called mediation. Mediation. Now, Trinidad and Tobago, in the High Court, they tried something called mediation for a period in time. It was a pilot project. But since the pilot project was finished, I think in 2016, 2017, it has not been followed through in a very aggressive manner. I would have thought that the executive in Trinidad and Tobago could have approached the judiciary and say, why don't we consider changing the rules, asking a rule to be put in for mediation? There's none. What is mediation? So the matter comes up before a judge, and the judge says, you know, this is a matter, 2 family members fighting, let's send it to a mediator. I don't have to get involved. Precious judicial time is not involved. And you have a qualified mediator like Saddam. Saddam is a good mediator. Saddam will sit down and he would listen to Rudy and he would listen to Tim. And within 5 minutes, Saddam will solve the problem. Otherwise, they wait 2 years in court. But I don't know if Tim will solve the problem with Rudy. But I mean, I'm just making a guess there. But this is civilized ways of how you approach to deal with matters that are filed. Otherwise, for the year, I think 3,000 or 2,000 cases are determined, but the backlog is so much, 40,000, right? And there's nothing being done about it from, I would think, from the government side in applying the necessary, you don't have to apply pressure, it has to be representation, right? The rules in Jamaica, for example, within the rules of the Supreme Court, there's something called mediation. It is put into the rules so that when the matter comes up before the judge, he can decide how to do it. We need to solve the problem. In Ontario, Canada, when mediation was employed, 96% of all cases were resolved. 96% using mediation, and not just using the judiciary. If we burden the judges, they work very hard. I appear before them every day. They sit, they work hard, they deal with the situation. but they just cannot. It's a huge mountain of cases. Let us employ mediation. Let us use that. I am sure, political leader, when you get in next year, that is one of the first things that you are going to put to solve the backlog in Trinidad and Tobago. You're going to make the necessary representations to get it done. My time is past, but there are so many problems too with normal things like the company's registry. You ever try to register companies? There's something called a cross system. You have to get a number. People who can't use the email are bouncing their head daily. Then you have to get a ticket. Then you have to go into the company's registry and file. It's crazy. And then the Honorable Minister of Finance says we had until, I think, the end of the year to file our returns. Then he changes it to the 13th of December. Everything is in a panic. Everything is in a state. We don't know what is going on. Lawyers are going crazy in Port of Spain with this. Probate. Somebody dies. You would think that is the easiest part of your life? Brother, that is the hardest part of your life. To get a grant, right? You have to file the documents. Now, if you file something bad, there's something called queries. How do you get a query? You have to send an email. Then they have to give you a date for the query, 6 months down the road, right? You can't even go into the counter and say, excuse me, what is the problem? It's a small problem, can I solve it? You have to wait. The delays are enormous. So in the whole system, justice delayed, length of time, all of these things can be cured with simple remedies, simple measures. All it needs is a little initiative. It needs someone to say, I am going to solve this problem. I am going to make life better and easier for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you very much. My time is over.
I'll now invite Mr. Singh to address us on this topic.
I just want to borrow a phrase from my good friend Devesh. Each judge assigned to the civil side of the High Court is struggling under a mountain of cases. A few years ago, they introduced something called the docket system. So each judge has a docket. A docket is the number of cases assigned to that particular judge. Each judge in Trinidad has, on the average, at least 500 cases assigned to that judge. You sit in court every day. When are you going to get time to write your judgments? You have so many judgments to write, so many cases to do. You have work to do in chambers, all sorts of objections to decide, procedural rules. When is the judge actually going to get the time to write the judgments? Trinidad has some of the most hard-working judges you will find. The problem is the judges just have too much work. And it goes back to what the political leader said. The solution to that is a simple one: more courts. More courts. Create specialized divisions of the High Court. You have a specialized commercial court with specialized rules, as they have in the UK, that hustles commercial disputes through the High Court, so that not the big contractors, the little disputes that people have concerning 1 and 200 and whatever it is, but small disputes, that is the lifeblood of any small business, being tied up in court, people being denied their judgment. And guess what? Whilst litigation is going on, and Devesh and I have the bitter experience of that contractors enter into contracts with state companies, and when they lose all the cases, like a thief in the night, they go and they get an order to wind up that company. So all the contractors, from Toco to Cedros, left with empty judgments which they can't enforce. And if a state corporation behaves like that, what do you expect the common man to do? So that's what you do. Create specialized divisions of the High Court. In England, there's something called a technology and construction court, because they've recognized that it is a specialized area of law. There is a commercial court. There's an administrative court where regular people who are discriminated, who are wronged by public authorities, you can go to the administrative court and you get your justice quickly from a specialized judge. As it is, the way the civil justice system works in this country is everything is thrown into the mix. And it's the luck of the draw. So you have cases which have the most complex technology or construction or whatever it is, going before judges who have never practiced in that area. So it takes them a while to get up to speed. They have staff. But guess what? If you have specialized courts, you have judges who will cut through the case and say, listen, fellas, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to hear all of that. Address me on so and so. This is the point in the case. Right? And talking about delay and justice for children, there is a particular case where the mother made an application for maintenance of a minor child, and Devesh knows the case I'm talking about. That child is grown and working today and probably is married and has children, and the judge still has not delivered the judgment that the mother went to court to get the father to pay maintenance to assist her to mind that child. Leader says justice delayed is justice denied. How in any civilized system of justice could one lend countenance, or could one say that that is right? A child, and you don't give this judgment. And the child is now, the last I heard, the child is married and has children of her own, and the judge still has not delivered the judgment. And guess what? The judge is 1 year away from retirement. And that is not, those are not unique problems, you know. Those are problems that beset and besiege the civil justice system. It is not, the delay in the civil side is not as bad as the delay on the criminal side. But it is bad. And the problem, the challenge we have is how do you deliver specialized justice to your citizens in a timely, expeditious, and most of all, a cost-effective manner. Because your little commercial dispute, your little land fight is worth just as much as a huge $1 million fight by two big companies, you know. In your mind, it is worth just as much. So there shouldn't be any discrimination as to why those cases cannot progress as quickly as other cases. And the answer to that lies in the creation of specialized divisions of the High Court. You do any search, and you will see on any given day that judgments are delivered by Commercial Court, Technology and Construction Court, Probate and Administration, Admiralty Division, all staffed by highly specialized judges who are able to deliver justice on a timely basis. And that's the challenge that Devesh was talking about, and I share his sentiments with regard to that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Singh, for those revealing facts that you have shared with us. Again, I want to provide some statistics for you all. The judiciary normally provides what we call an annual report, where they will account for the total number of cases, the amount of money spent over the years. When you look at the judiciary's website, the last report that we can find was the 2020 to 2021 report. So that's about 3 years ago. The total number of civil high court matters as at the 31st of July 2021 is 5,992 matters that were active before the civil court since July 2021. And hundreds of matters are filed every year. So that's the backlog that we're dealing with. The Trinidad Guardian has an article by Joshua Simangal, and an FOIA was sent to the judiciary asking for the total number of pending probate matters that there's before the registry. As at October 2023, there were 14,915 pending probate matters. 14,915 as at October 2023. And when the article goes on, and I want to read this. It says, between August 1 to 2020 to July 31, 2023, 7,690 probate matters were completed. With 7,690 probate matters completed in the 1,095 days between August 1st, 2020 to July 31st, 2023, it works out to around 7 probate matters being completed a day. 7 a day, and we have a backlog of about over 15,000. It probably climbed by now. And also, Mr. Singh raised issues with respect to, and both Mr. Maharaj, with respect to the probate and the company's registry. But I want to also give you another side of it too, which is deeds. People like to buy land in Trinidad and Tobago. And the process for registering a deed is so onerous and unnecessary. When you bring the client to the office, the client signs the deed, whether the transfer for RPO. You have to send a copy of that together with the valuation reports to the BIR office. So you're paying a clerk to go to the BIR office. They will take a couple days to assess it. You have to pay the clerk to go and pick up the assessment and bring it back by the lawyer office. The client now has to go to the bank, cut a check to the BIR. The clerk has to go back to the BIR, drop off the deed to be stamped with the check. Then they have to collect the deed, carry it to the Ministry of Legal Affairs to register it, order the certified copy, and all of that you are paying the clerk each time he goes to the registries, to the departments. Why Minister Simba talks about this cashless society and electronic transactions? Why it is you can't have this deed registered, assessed, everything at the lawyer's office? We have high court trials taking place at offices, but you have to go about 2 or 3 different departments to register a single deed. And one point, political leader, I would want to bring to your attention, which a surveyor brought to my attention, is that there are 2 types of lands in Trinidad. We have the common law title and the RPO title. There are persons who have RPO title because they would have been, they got it through inheritance. They may not have the money to develop the land. In order to cut up that RPO land, you have to get something called local health approval for subdivision, which means you have to go and build a road on the land. You have to build box drain on the land for drainage. You have to put up infrastructure on the lands. So that person does not have the money to develop that land. So that is why there are so much lands in Trinidad and Tobago underdeveloped, because people simply don't have the money to put out for that. So I'm asking you in your next government to consider bringing some relief to those people. So I now pass you on to the political leader.
You know, I think this is a most interesting Townhall. Whatever info we're getting, data we're getting. I mean, can you give the panelists, again, a round of applause? You see, they are in the practice of the law, and they're in the field, and they know what the goods may be, or the goods on the bads may be. You know it inside out, and that is why I thought we would bring them as senior lawyers, and our junior lawyer is doing very well as well, MP Saddam. Thank you so much. I will not speak very much, because I find it most interesting suggestions coming from our panelists here. I will just want to say, I think one of you talked about in Trinidad everybody wants to sue everybody else, but we are known as one of the most litigious societies, meaning the most court matters. People just like to go to court, and then why do they do it? They want justice. And then what happens? You told me about this case where the child is now an adult with children of her own, a judge is about to retire, can't get a judgment. Again, the delays in the system, talking about the lands registry, talking about the probate registry, everything is in backlog. So I like the suggestion from both our colleagues, the one for mediation, for us to really put more emphasis on the mediation, which can hasten the process for persons to get justice and don't have to end up killing each other. They can sit and do the mediation, you know, and work it out. You have a problem with your brother or your sister with a little piece of land or one lot of land, it can be worked out. We don't have to spend 10 years, by which time you did and the brother or sister did too. So I like the concept of putting emphasis on mediation. And then Jagdeo, what was that? You see, now you come to blame the lawyers. You see how easy it is? So you blame the judges, You blame the DPP, and now we have 4 lawyers on this platform, and you want to blame the lawyers. I don't agree with that. Again, they're explaining the problems faced in the whole system. And we still need the lawyers, huh? With all the lawyers, it's even worse. So, on the issue of specialized courts from Jagdeo Singh, the answer to that is, of course, yes. But there is another factor. It has to do with the resources to the judiciary. It has to do, you said, more courts, more judges needed, and specialized courts for expertise. But there's another factor, and I'm waiting to see what the government does. They have laid the 120th SRC report in the parliament. There's been a lot of noise about it in the public domain because it gives to the Prime Minister his highest ever raise if he accepts it. This is the first time in the history of a country that the Prime Minister would be, if they accept that report, would be paying more than the President. So I'm watching and waiting to see what happens. But I will say this. I do not believe the Prime Minister should get an increase at this time. I do not believe the President should get an increase at this time. I do not believe that Kamla, Persad, Bissessar, opposition leader should get an increase at this time. No. Now is not the time when you're offering people 1% and 2% and 4%. It is obscene. It is obscene. It is disrespectful at this time. However, I started about judges. The judges should be given the increases in the SRC report. The public servants should be given the increases in the SRC report. They're hard-working people. And if this is what has been assessed. But, you know, I want you to remember this. Huh? There is something also obscene for politicians to have the power to decide on their own salary increases. So that SRC report has to come to the parliament. And guess what? The Prime Minister has a majority with his members. Does he say yes? You know, the media has been hounding me. What did I have to say? What do I have to say? I had said it before when they brought the 116 report, the one they brought before, and they sent it back saying things were wrong in it. From then I've been saying the politicians should not be given the increases at this time. But I fully agree that the judges should be given increases and the public servants and the various ministers. We are in agreement with that? Yes. Now is not the time. The time is not now. When I call on the Prime Minister to tell us what is his view on this report, I said the press hounded me down what I had to say. Nobody never asked the Prime Minister what he had to say. We filed a question in Parliament on Prime Minister's question day. David Lee, I asked him, MP Lee, you know, they rejected the question. The question was to ask Prime Minister, what is your view on this latest report? Well, everybody wanted to know what Kamla has to say. Well, Kamla says no to the Prime Minister, no to the President, and no to Kamla. Not at this time. I thank you very much, and we support judges getting higher salaries. They are overworked and underpaid. And hello, the lawyers are overworked and underpaid too, by the way. Thank you very much, Saddam. Over to you.
Leader, can I crave your indulgence to mention something which I forgot to mention? And it has to do with DNA evidence, and I beg you for 1 minute. It has been touted that DNA evidence is the new gold standard for the detection and prosecution and conviction of criminals. But I want to let you all into a little secret. 3 weeks ago, the Privy Council delivered a judgment in which they have set the standard for DNA evidence at a level that no lab in Trinidad will be able to satisfy. None. I have a pending judgment in which I have asked the Minister of National Security whether he has entered into any partnerships with any accredited labs. And they have not provided the answers yet. They have not laid the DNA reports because in the DNA Act, there are several stages you have to follow. And none of the partnerships, none of the labs in Trinidad are credited with the 4 labs that the DNA Act says that you should form partnerships with and receive accreditation. So the gold standard after the Washington judgment, I don't know how that's going to apply, and no one has sought to address it, even though they have said consistently that they move towards scientific evidence. I don't know how that's going to happen. Leader, thank you very much for that 1 minute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Singh. Now, the leader, during her budget response, outlined several plans in order to deal with some of these issues that these two prominent attorneys have raised this evening on this platform. So I now pass you over back to the political leader to outline some of those plans for us.
Thank you very much. I know the time is moving swiftly because this conversation has been really, really inspiring for all of us. So let's thank all our panelists. And as Jagdeo mentioned, about the young man you had to pull in and tell him, hey, you have to wear your lawyer's bands. If you're going into court, you have to wear the bands. In that way, the judges know you're a lawyer. In that way, the person sitting in the court know you're a lawyer. And whatever it is a tradition to wear the bands. But I'll tell you something. Again, as a young lawyer graduating, going out into the courts in San Fernando, in those days, we didn't have the new courthouse. We had the old Supreme Court building. You all may be too young to remember it. So it was an old wooden building. And I remember going to court and we were sitting there. And there's this judge who was a very stern judge. I will not name her. Everyone was terrified of her, as all the young ones, but some of the older ones too. And a particular lawyer walked into the courthouse and open, my lady, I represent Jagdeo Singh, I represent Mr. McIntyre or Johnny or Persad, whoever. He said, I do not see you. So I'm like, what's going on here? I do not see you, please sit down. And he kept insisting, I am the attorney law representing whoever it is. I don't see you. And you know what? I don't even hear you. Get out of this courtroom. You know why? He was wearing the wrong clothing. He was wearing the wrong color jacket. And I hear you when you say the younger ones, you recently had that experience. So as we talk about addressing the judges and dressing to go to court, there are reasons for these traditions. You know, a man walking into the courthouse with a short pants or a jeans, these are traditions that we follow for the respect that is due to the judiciary and the courts of law. So I just thought I'd share that with you, and I have many more stories I could tell from all those years spent in courthouses all over the country. I'll be happy to share them with some of the younger lawyers. Maybe we could have a gathering. What do you all think? Bring in the younger lawyers and have a little formal session, yes? And we can share it. Yeah, we can do that. I'll ask you two lawyers, senior, to help us and others. Let's put it together and we can do an informal session that we can share our experiences, you know. But we have a new person who will soon be a lawyer, MP, Dr. Sicharan. MP Sicharan is a doctor dentist, but the man has been studying law for how many years, who will soon probably graduate. So congratulate him. Okay? We have Arnold has graduated a few years now. Dave Tanku graduated a few years now. And we have young Chris Hosein across there. Yes. Said? Which one are the doctors? Okay, they tell me Tim has an LLB. Should go ahead and get it. I don't know if that's true, but...
3 years.
Oh, so you do have an LLB, a Bachelor of Law. Not yet. Oh, you're doing... Okay. These are halfway there then. You soon get there. Let me just say some things quickly because we do want to hear from you. We do want your suggestions and comments. So one of the things we propose to do for the Justice Reform Project is to undertake a review of all criminal laws to weed out obsolete laws. We have so many statutes on our statute books that are just obsolete. And not only are they obsolete, they are oppressive to a free and democratic society. We need a review of all of those. We will need to, I think we did it before, and of course, no support under Mr. Pandey's government to categorize murders and whatever into first degree, second degree, I don't see why someone would object to that. Because there are degrees in other countries where, again, it's not as brutal as it is here. You both spoke about delaying, and therefore we propose to introduce a constitutional right of an accused to have a trial within a reasonable time. You both mentioned in other countries what happens there, and it is something we will have precedent elsewhere that we can copy and trim to suit our situation, Trinidad. Further, place victims at the center of the criminal justice system from the beginning. Provide support for victims, including restitution, job placements, housing, and social programs. Due to the current low detection rate and conviction rate, this support will be given regardless of whether someone is caught or convicted. Once you're a victim, we must give support to victims. I recall working on a piece of law known as the Criminal Injuries Compensation Act that we had passed some years ago, maybe it's under the Pandey government. And I remember, yes, it was under Mr. Pandey, I worked on that piece of law. And it was to provide victims of crime with at least some level of compensation. I don't know the status of that now because this government is not very good at helping people. So I'll ask Saddam to do research. They're supposed to put out a report every year as well, an annual report. So let's check it and see if they've helped any victims at all. Jabs, are you aware of it?
The board has been convened. I know that they were appointed, but I want to let you in a little secret. Nearly every statutory authority in this country has to provide a report to the Parliament on an annual basis. 95% of them fail to provide that. And the most important one is tapping of telephones. The only report provided is when we took them to court in 2016. They provided all the reports up to then, and they have stopped because it reveals the extent of illegal wiretapping in this country. But Saddam and I will do some research on that later.
Thank you very much. And as you mentioned, that the board, the Criminal Injuries Compensation Board, I had to take them to court as well. We had passed the law, I had to take them on here to court to actually put the board in place because we call it, breach of statutory duty. Their statutory duty was to appoint a board. Never did. Yes, writ of mandamus. I remember it well. Only after I did that, they set up a board, but then they have to renew these boards and they're not doing it. It's happening in almost every sector, you're right, in every statutory body that this government is looking after. So we will take a look at what's happening with that. I think the maximum under that was $50,000. Huh? So that was so many years ago. It means it's something we may have to review to make sure we can assist victims, falling upon crimes. We talked about providing resources to ensure that cases involving offenses against children and sexual offenses are determined rapidly. I am putting out for discussion that we raise the legal age for marijuana use and gambling to 25 years and older. This government legalized marijuana, but the medical science, the medical evidence is that those under 25, the thing that marijuana does to your brain can damage you, fry your brain forever. So it is something we'll consider. Someone told me, don't say that, please. I said, why? They said, well, people 18 years and over could vote. And if you tell them you're going to take away the gambling and take away the marijuana, they may not vote for you. I say, no, let us do the right thing because what? It is the right thing to do. We will do it. Increase the number of functional courtrooms. We talked about the courtrooms. There is a deficit in the number of courtrooms. Each judge of the High Court must have a designated courtroom to ensure that that judge can sit on any given day. Do you know how many judges we have, any one of you? Now, High Court judges? How many High Court judges? Okay, we think... 500 caseload. So courtroom increase, judiciary increases, and your issue of the specialized courts with expertise to man it. Provide more courtrooms in highly populated areas outside the capital. Shall go on us. Rio Claro, Grande and Saddam has reminded me, San Fernando has no criminal court. Diego Martin, I don't mind Diego Martin belongs to somebody else, but the people of Diego Martin deserve better. We should have those courts. Increase key support in the judiciary to reduce the backlog. Bring indictable cases to trial within 2 to 3 years. Create smaller detention centers around the country to break up gang activity and to ensure closer family support to prisoners by enabling regular visiting rights. We will also ensure that incarcerated persons are allowed frequent visits from their children. We should establish low security prisons for first-time non-violent offenders with work release during the day and, of course, with the bracelets. Modernize prisons and break up large prisons into smaller ones where you can better monitor inmates. Utilize intelligence services for crime fighting and not for spying on political opponents, which Jags just reminded us about, the wiretapping, the phone tapping. Utilize that to use for intelligence gathering, not for spying on opponents. It was my government that brought the Interception of Communications Act, because we discovered that the then government had been spying on trade unionists, on lawyers, on me, politicians, and strange enough, they were spying also on their own MPs and senators. We brought that law, but as you say, they have not been keeping up with their statutory duty to file the reports, and that is something we may have to take them to court for as well. It's a very important factor. Now remember, there are 3 agencies that are authorized under our law, that piece of law, to bring, to do wiretapping. One is TTPS, but of a high level. Second is the SSA. You remember the SSA, anybody? Remember that we were told that the officers in the SSA were planning a coup. What has happened with that? Nothing. We asked the question, was it last day in Parliament or a couple of days ago, about the SSA and where they said they were planning a coup and they were supposed to get, I think it's Dr. Monilal, am I correct? The question was, have you done an audit of what went on? Where is the equipment? Where is everything? Whatever was happening. It was that SSA that was spying on everybody prior to 2010, you know. So we don't know what's happening there. If this government found out that they're spying on them and they fired everybody, we don't know what happened. So intelligence services, if used for crime fighting and not for political spy. Now maybe I get to. And implement, yes, appropriate social programs, training and life skills training to prevent or to help prevent repeat offenders. Reform and reorient the education system to cater to all children, not just academically gifted ones. We need to identify young persons with disabilities, vulnerabilities, so they can be channeled into productive activities. I saw recently somewhere in the United Kingdom, an autistic child, well now grown up, became a professor at a university. So just because you have some learning vulnerabilities, don't throw them away into the dustbin somewhere. We need to pick up, and sometimes these challenged persons are very, very talented and very gifted, but you have to challenge them in the right direction. Our education system at the moment is not geared for this, does not care. I remember we had built in my government down in Central, a center there for children with disability. They shut it down. Vandana is here somewhere, MP Vandana. That center for persons with disabilities. This government shut it down. And it was the mayor of Shogunas, together with MP Vandana, that we were able to source an alternative place to put these children, you know. They really just have no care. We should encourage the participation of NGOs and service organizations in mentoring youth. We must target and mentor at-risk youth to prevent them from falling under the influence of the gangs. Provide support for single parents, after-school care. You remember all the homework centers we set up? Homework centers, after-school care. Parents are working, a place that children could be safe. They shut it down. They shut down all of them. They shut down the community comfort patrols. You remember it, Mr. McIntyre, Mr. Abraham? The community comfort patrols shut down. And the communities are just going to the bandits now. Moving along, some other suggestions we can share as follows. I think we need to look at reforming the judge alone trial process to provide for 3 judges to sit in capital cases. Capital cases are murder and so on. With the death penalty, yeah? You can't leave it in the hands of one judge alone. This is a man's life that is a risk. To consider putting back the 3 judges. No, there was always one judge. But there was a jury. So they did this judge alone without the jury, and I still think that is something that needs to be looked at. We must invest in the DPP's office and the Public Defender's Office for better conditions. DPP office is overworked and understaffed and under-resourced in every regard. And underpaid, definitely. I think in the SRC report, hopefully there's something for the DPP as well. Introduce a system of rewards for police officers and divisions where crime is being kept low. If you're doing good in a division, we should incentivize the police officers, reward them for bringing down the crime in their district. That is something we can consider. So if the good officer getting the same pay as the bad officers, there is no incentive. We have to find a way to create that incentive so they will all step up to the plate and work harder. Work with stakeholders to convene a national consultation on crime and justice within 1 month of forming government. Revamp plea bargaining legislation. Revamp and refurbish magistrates' court infrastructure. That has deteriorated substantially, and as you're saying now, is all these Zoom courtrooms rather than virtual courtrooms. Ensure capital cases are heard and determined expeditiously. And there are others here which I will share with you at another time, because I do want us to get to hearing from you. Just at least some simple suggestions. I had raised many of them in my budget reply, and it's out there on our website that you can take a look, those of you who have an interest, and give us feedback. So again, I thank you very much. Saddam, back to you. Thank you all very much.
I want you all to just give our panelists this evening a very hearty round of applause for this very interesting, revealing and insightful discussion we had this evening on the court systems, the criminal justice system, and the civil division. So now we want to hear from you, members of the audience, with respect to your views, your perspectives, and your questions with respect to the panel. Now, what we will do, because we're running a bit behind on time, we will ask about 2 or 3 of you all to make your presentation, and then I'll ask the panelists to respond as we go along.
Pleasant good night to each and every one of you, members of the head table. I'm here to speak to represent my organization. I'm the president of the Arangwes Taxi Driver Association. And I have 2 topics to speak on tonight, but I will only speak on one, the most important one, because I wanted to speak on traffic and crime, but I will speak on crime. 2015. The reason why I mentioned 2015, since 2015, I've been attending to every single police town hall meeting, right? And I've been raising this issue. I asked for a camera to be facing obliquely opposite our taxi stand. The reason why I asked for that, because I realized that there's no cameras facing our taxi stand. So it could indicate, show that if anybody enter our taxi, if anything happened, the police would be able to assist. Right. 3 things happened on 3 different occasions. One of our taxi drivers was robbed. He robbed off his car. They never hear nothing about it. The second occasion, 3 persons enter a taxi, or one of our taxi, and one of our taxi driver was stabbed 19 times. That's the second occasion. And the third occasion is that one of our taxi driver again, 4 persons entered the car, and he was robbed, he was murdered. Until this date, nobody was held accountable for that. So what I'm doing, I want to ask the opposition leader, Madam Opposition Leader, I want to ask if you could work together with me to help work with my crime plan, that is one, and also the traffic plan, which is most important, because wondering that if the state-owned company in NP collaborating to have traffic not resolved. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Clive Graham is the name. I live in the constituency of my representative there, Saddam Hosein, my political leader. Before I say what I come to, I heard the fellow away from the Aragwas taxi driver talking about cameras. But let me give you a little experience with that corner. Police officers on duty. A young fella, probably might be breaking the law, selling what they call it, fruits. They put him in handcuffs. And across the bus route, drug selling. And at the next corner, drug selling. You understand? So, and a little further up the street, a police car is parked. And 2 fellas sit down right by the car smoking a spliff. This says a lot. This says a lot. Apart from that, illegal playway, playing so, and playing so, and the police station in the middle. I'm going to leave that. Let me see what I come to say. While I was sitting here, 2 words came to me about what everybody was saying. Everybody have their thing. Why and fix. I had to change fix to create. Why? Because, lady, you have work to do. You have work to do. Because, let me tell all you something. We feel it's a management problem, thing had to thing. It's not a management problem, you have to have something to manage. Because you can't take a barrel of faces and put a little bit of sugar in it and feel it go turn to sugar. Okay? Sorry I had to cut it short, it's only 3 minutes I have. Because my political mentor tell us, you know what I mean, how we think, we just work till we come to a thing. I have Tatya, man. Lloyd Best is my mentor. I ashamed to say it, right? And I prepare to sit down and work. We have work to do. I don't envy you. But somebody had to do it. With fellas like Saddam, you think it happened, right? Now, why had to change it from fixed for that reason? You have to create. The question why? Crime, everything starts in the mind. And if we fix the minds of the people, we will have less work for fellas like them, lawyer and them. You understand what I'm saying? So, we have to fix it. When I say it starts in the mind, we have to take a holistic approach to crime. We cannot only think about law enforcement, the education. We have musicians. Let me make it short. You have done? All right. We have musicians. We have yoga is something that helps the mind. What are we doing in the schools? If we take a holistic approach, yes, we have the crime going on. We have to deal with that. But we have to create a new set of people so that later on we won't have so much crime.
Yeah. Okay, thank Mr. Graham.
Hi,
Thank
boss.
you very much.
Thank you very much. We need a holistic approach in every sector. Thank you for your comments.
Good night, everyone. Steve Atuaru. I represent the Barataria Police Station Council, as well as the Sour Hill Police Station Council, one of the younger members. Let me just remind everybody that the last allocation to Ministry of National Security was just under 7 billion. But Barataria Police Station still have a proper printer at this time. And police still wearing bulletproof vests from the 1980s. Derelict cars in the yard, out the yard. If you want to go and make a report, you have to park 2 streets down to walk to the station because we don't have a place to put these things, right? But I can represent from more the police side of things. So police officers carry firearms on a daily basis, and they can't get FULs. Trying to understand how the TTPS train and trust police officers to carry every day a firearm on a hip amongst the public. But when they take the uniform off, they are no longer fit to carry a firearm. And the reason for bringing up that is the foiled attempt of the robbery in Arangwes with the Blue Water truck. It was a off-duty police officer pulled his licensed firearm. As for a lot of foil attempts in groceries, it was off-duty officers who had their fuel. So why is it that the negative influence could carry all this amount of firepower, but the police officers who already trained psychologically, everything, you're giving it during the day, but you can't give it off-duty. Also, on police, we have a problem in Barataria where the inspectors change so regular. Since COVID, we had Archibald, then Ram Singh, Bharat coming, and now we have Inspector Nash, and he's leaving in December. We don't even know who coming in January. So from the time we build a little trust in our police station and our inspector in charge of the station, they root them out and go somewhere else. They must have, when you ask the senior superintendent for Northeastern, why is this? We can't really get a proper answer. They just need them somewhere else. But we also need it. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Hello, good evening to the panel and political leader. I have a very brief question. There was a lot of comparisons to the US and other jurisdictions. In terms of the monopolies that are rising in Trinidad, there is an American, Lena Khan, spearheading the Free Trade Commission. Is there any prerogative to spearhead that in Trinidad by anybody? Thank you.
Well, I think the corresponding legislation in Trinidad would be the Fair Trade Commission that we have in Trinidad. I don't know how effective it is. I know there have been complaints, for example, by pharmacies about pharmaceutical monopolies, and I don't know how far they have gotten with it, but I know about the US counterpart. They do a lot of work. They break up Google, they broke up all the big corporations, they prevent monopolies, encourage competition. So I think it's a fair question. I think when next year when UNC gets into power, that's one of the things that needs to be addressed immediately, how to deal with monopolies and competition.
If you could give me 1 minute. The most pressing problem that this country faces with fair trade is something that everyone in this room uses every single day. That is the subject of a growing, creeping, and unhindered monopoly. And it is pharmaceuticals. Pharmaceuticals, the distribution power for pharmaceuticals in this country is astonishingly concentrated in one company. One company sells you all your pharmaceuticals in no civilized country. Can that be right or should be permitted? And Devesh is right. The Fair Trade Commission has sat by and allowed these mergers to continue whilst the distributorship for pharmaceuticals continues to shrink and to shrink and to shrink. And overnight, before you know it, every Panadol, every Cafanol, and every tablet you buy will come from one company. Every bottle of Vicks, as the leader says. That can't be right. And it is up to us to strengthen the Fair Trade Commission legislation. And the legislation is there, you know. The commission can hold public hearings. They can hold people accountable. But yet, there seems to be an unwillingness to enforce the legislation once again.
Well, there are certain parts of the legislation which need to be proclaimed.
Yes, I
For
agree.
it to give it more teeth, and there's a reluctance apparently to do it for some reason or the other. And maybe we need to look into that and find out why they don't proclaim the other parts of it. How is it that when a merger is taking place with 2 or 3 companies that are dealing in the same business, they come to you and they ask you for an opinion, whether or not what they're doing is right. And then you give them a carte blanche opinion and said, yes, go ahead. That can't be correct. The United States is very vigorous about that. I think we need to adopt a more aggressive approach towards dealing with these business groups. Otherwise, what is going to happen is that the strong is going to get stronger. No one is going to protect the weak.
The rich will get richer. You remember those words? And you're asking why? Why is this happening? 3 letters. F, F, F. Friends, family, and finances. So you're right, they're not working with it. And that's why you say we need the lawyers. Lawyers will see these things, they'll help us. That Fair Trade Commission should be working overtime. So I'm totally in support of your question, and thank you, Dev and Jax, for your replies.
Good night. Opposition Leader, all protocols observed. I would not be long, I promise all of that, right? My name is Safraz Ali. I'm here in my capacity as the Vice President of the Arangwes Community Council and also a Director with the Agricultural Society, Trinidad and Tobago, and I want to raise 2 issues. But before I raise those 2 issues, we are in real trouble in Trinidad and Tobago. When you have a Prime Minister in a CARICOM event saying, PM tells CARICOM heads no safe harbors for criminals in Caribbean. Brothers and sisters, you hear lie? That is lie. Because everybody knows Trinidad and Tobago borders are porous. Then he comes and says crime is a public health emergency. I am putting it to everybody that he is a public health emergency. And we need to get rid of him. Anyway, the 2 issues. Number 1, Leader of the Opposition. We have a serious problem in El Sicuro and Arangwes. We are being overrun by Spanish. It is uncontrolled, and every corner you look, it's Spanish. It's so bad right now that previous larceny in the Arangwes farm area skyrocket. Just today a farmer, just now, about half an hour before this meeting, a farmer called me almost in tears. He said, no thief my pump. He turned his back for 2 hours, going home to eat dinner and come back, pump gone. He told us Spanish to clear the field for him. Look like the Spanish clear other things too. Right? That's one. So I am asking, pleading that when the UNC comes in power, let us put things in place to get back our country, please. The second thing is, that's from the agriculture standpoint. From the community standpoint, Arangwes is hot right now. Somehow the criminals like Arangwes and they like home invasions. It was so bad last year that the residents had a meeting, an emergency meeting in the community center in Arangwes, and Mr. Hines came. He came, uninvited, but he came. And he gave a promise that he's going to increase the amount of police vehicles for the Northeast Division. You know what happened after that? Every time we called and spoke with the authorities in the Barataria police station, we were being told that there's only 1 functioning vehicle. Hines promised, budget after budget, even in this one, that he's going to buy more and more new vehicles. So my question to Mr. Hines, where the police vehicles going? Where the new vehicles going? Just like the missing $3.4 billion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Safraz, I want to make a comment on this matter. You raised it about the Venezuelans. Is that what your concern? It is a concern of many people in Trinidad and Tobago. The government has failed to put in place any proper migrant policies. We have no proper migrant policies in place, and that is something we will look at. It cannot be that the Venezuelans have been given a home here. It cannot be not only are they given a home, they don't pay taxes, but they utilize the hospitals. They utilize our schools. Yes, we are bleeding hearts and we feel sorry, but there must be a proper migrant policy with respect to the Venezuelans. 1, When you put us back into government, we will implement that policy. But that policy will have to be this, that the venues will have to prove where were you working for the past 3 years? You have any pay slip, any company that you worked? Because if you were not working somewhere, how you living? Banditry? If we give you a home here, you have to prove that you're worthy to remain here and that you're not working against law-abiding citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. That is something people say, well, yes, trees migrate and go and we have to get help. You see what Trump is doing? If you don't behave yourself here, go back home. Go back home. Trinis first. Safety first. Thank you very much.
Special good evening, everyone, political leader, members of the panel, my MP. My name is Azim Mandol, born and bred in El Socorro, still in El Socorro. And I understand that I'm the last speaker, and I have one observation to make, and this is perhaps a good way to end it. And political leader, you would have touched on it before, and Mr. Singh as well. And I want to just make mention of what we do as a society in the messaging that we give on crime. You spoke about blaming this one, blaming that one, blaming the other. You spoke about victim support. A lot of the messaging that we give on crime is actually victim blaming. In fact, there is a TV show that the police service partners with, a daily show. And on that show, they are supposed to report on criminality and how they handle it. But more often than not, they resort to victim blaming. What I mean by that? So, he was robbed because he had too much cash on him. Or because the gold chain was too nice. The car was stolen because she left it running to go and close the gate right behind her. My wife was robbed in downtown Port of Spain while driving through in traffic in downtown Port of Spain. And the police officer at the station while making the report says, you work in town 20 years now and you know better than that. Because you see, she was wrong because she wore a bracelet to go to work. She was wrong because she was driving through Port of Spain at 8 a.m. with the glass down. All of these incidents, all of these examples put the blame squarely on the victim. And we are not putting the focus on the criminals. And that does a number of things. It absolves the criminal of any responsibility. Number two, it adds to the trauma. Mr. Singh, you spoke about the trauma victims go through. It adds further to the trauma. They're already gone through that hardship, that pain of the burglary or whatever it is itself. Plus, post that, we are telling them, you know what? You get that because it's your fault. Now, that also rolls into my third point where, because of these things, crime is not being reported as much. Because why should I go and report a crime to the police only to hear, well, you know, you look for that. The criminals know they can get away with it because the focus is not on them. And I'll end with this point because I understand there's a long line behind me. Well, I'll still end with this point. And that is, are we really saying as a nation that the solution to crime is to not walk with cash, is to not wear a gold chain, is to lock up yourself in your house, make sure all those burglar-proof and gating, all those things are locked up? Are we saying that this is the solution to crime? Or is that really burying our heads in the sand and hiding from the criminal and giving them the win? I thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of those who have taken their time to come and give their views and opinion on these very pressing matters. So I just want to give the political leader an opportunity to make her closing comments. And I hope you all enjoyed this very informative and insightful panel discussion on the criminal justice system and the other issues affecting the judiciary.
Thank you very much, MP Saddam. Let's thank the MP for helping us organize. Deputy Leader Jalen John, thanks for your assistance. MP Padarat, who is our party organizer. And of course, let's thank all those who contributed to make this evening happen. Our very distinguished panelists, We wish they would speak out more because today has been really wonderful. All the comments that we got, and I'm sure there's more. But what happens with these lawyers, they get so busy. So tomorrow is what, Tuesday morning? If fellas had to go to court 9 o'clock in the morning, and then afternoon they have to see clients. But I really thank them for the valuable time and contributions shared with us today. All of you get home safe, go brave. We'll continue to meet with you. Thank you very much. Thank you. God bless.
Do you know that in 2016, 66 liters of diesel cost $100? Today, under the PNM, you get 20 liters of diesel for $100. The diesel you paid $100 for under the UNC now costs $327 under the PNM, which directly affects the cost of food, transport, and services. Guess who I'm voting for next time?